Welcome to Vice Casting Couch Podcast, Season 1, Episode 23. I'm Ryan. Joining me today is John from Toledo. And today we're going to be talking about vaccine hacks, Facebook getting taken to court, and Cyberpunk Epilepsy. How you doing today, John?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah?
I feel like we say the same thing every intro.
Hey, I'm just trying to see how you're doing. How's Toledo? How's the weather?
A little cold outside.
Yeah?
Got that lake effect going on, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you start us off here?
We can start talking about, so certain hackers have been targeting companies that are involved in the COVID-19 vaccine distribution. There's been a global spear phishing campaign that's been targeting these organizations that are associated with distributing the COVID vaccine. And this has been happening ever since September 2020. We learned about this because of IBM Security X-Force researchers. They say these attacks are taking an aim at the vaccine's cold chain because the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine requires like sub-zero temperatures. I want to say it's like negative 50 degrees or something like that. They say, looking at it, it looks like it's the operation of a nation-state actor. This has prompted, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency to issue an alert, urging Operation Warp Speed, the one that's been like trying to push the virus really fast and everything. They should beef up their defenses and review any indicators of compromise. Mm-hmm. We've seen these phishing emails dating from September, targeting organizations all over the world, including places like in Germany, South Korea, Italy, the Czech Republic, even Taiwan. Pretty interesting that there's so much, like, I don't know what the right word is, but everyone's trying to get at this COVID-19 information. Like, we don't know who it is, but this is interesting because there were some cyber assaults from 2 Chinese nationals that they've been prosecuted for stealing sensitive data, which included information from companies developing the COVID-19 vaccine and certain testing technologies and treatments.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before, so it's not too much of a surprise. Especially China and Russia trying to get more info on like what other countries are working on, like how far they've gotten, that sort of stuff. And we know that they're basically just trying to gather whatever info that they can. So it's kind of sad, but it's not really surprising, I guess.
It's interesting, these phishing campaigns, like half the time it's like, hey, log into your Facebook, but these ones, they used a legitimate China-based cold chain provider in an attempt to try and convince the recipients to actually open the emails. It says we haven't been able to identify who the actors are, but it says ultimate objective is to harvest usernames and passwords and to steal intellectual property.
Yeah. So more of the same.
Yeah, because we've seen the big 3 like Russia, North Korea, and China hacking different pharmaceutical companies. Oh yeah. Microsoft posted this back in November. We've seen it with Canada, France, India, South Korea, and the U.S. Even last week, it emerged that North Korea had targeted a British drug maker, AstraZeneca, by posing as recruiters on LinkedIn and WhatsApp.
Nice.
So they're approaching these employees with fake job offers, hoping they'll click on it and then, infect their device and install malware. But
I mean, I guess that's a little more clever than Nigerian prince or something.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Like, these phishing campaigns have definitely evolved, especially when they're deployed by, nation states and whatnot.
Yeah.
Next.
Well, why don't you tell us about Facebook then?
Yeah, I'll roll right into my next story about Facebook. So Facebook's actually being sued by 48 states and the U.S. Federal Trade Commissions for illegal monopolization. So on Wednesday, 48 state attorneys and the FTC, they filed a sweeping pair of antitrust suits against Facebook, alleging that the company abused its power in the marketplace to neutralize competitors. They've also, referenced the acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp and how they're pretty much trying to take over the whole social media market. Mm-hmm. There's a separate lawsuit by New York Attorney General Lida James, who also claimed that in illegally acquiring competitors in a preparatory manner, the social media company has stripped users of the benefits of competition. And in this article, it mainly talks about how, because they've pretty much taken up all these companies, users are kind of forced to use them because they're the biggest name in town. And then if there was competition, there potentially could be access to different social media platforms that have better privacy practices than what Facebook employs now.
Yep.
In the lawsuits, they seek to rescind the acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp, which is interesting because Facebook says this is revisionist history because they pointed out that these deals were okayed a couple years ago when they bought them. So they're like, this is, it's kind of bizarre. Like, how come this is happening? So Facebook's obviously fighting back. They also accused Facebook in this lawsuit of imposing anti-competitive conditions on their third-party software developers. So Facebook has a bunch of Facebook APIs that these developers can use, and it forces them to refrain from developing certain competing functionalities. They mentioned a specific example was Vine, the video app that Twitter had. Mm-hmm. And then so Facebook's friend finding API cut off the same day that the service was launched on iOS. So they're saying that it was hurting Vine and couldn't drive as many users and stuff like that to them.
Yeah, so they're basically trying to starve them out. On one hand, it is surprising because normally the U.S. government kind of leaves these companies alone because they're huge and obviously they provide a lot of services for the government as a whole and stuff like that. But I am glad that they are kind of taking a more staunch stance to this because it is true. I mean, there's been so many companies that have tried to compete with what like Facebook and Google, ultimately Alphabet, has to offer, and they basically just get squashed. And there are a bunch of alternatives, as we discussed before, to Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that, like Libri, Odyssey, like Rumble. There's a bunch out there that kind of get a bad rap, but you don't really hear about them a whole lot, mainly because...
Or even like stuff like Dysphora and Friendica, or Mastodon, or Gab. Gab's more extreme. We shouldn't mention them, but...
Okay.
But it's interesting to mention Google because we saw another lawsuit against Google in October for alleged illegal monopolization for their search and online ad market. That was being filed. And so I think we're going to see more of the U.S. government checking the power of these Silicon Valley giants. And I think it's welcome. I personally, wish that either via more regulation or honestly, the users speaking with their voice, like the biggest problem is with stuff like YouTube and Facebook. While there's alternatives, no one's on there. Why would I use it? Like Libri's growing, and I have been looking at it more and been using it a little bit more. Just the fact that all my favorite content creators are on YouTube, it really puts you in a rock and a hard place. You're like, I hate what YouTube's doing. They're shadow banning, they're unlisting stuff just because, they talk about various topics. Like for a while, cryptocurrency channels were getting banned. So a lot of people moved to Libri for cryptocurrency. Yep. Now we're seeing it with political discussion and all kinds of different areas have been being targeted by this.
I think that's kind of the main roadblock is a lot of people just don't know that they exist. Either that or the sites themselves get a bad rap, and so no one wants to try them out. Like Rumble, everything I saw about Rumble was that it was basically a place for extremists, like conspiracy theorists and people, yelling at the camera, blah, blah, blah. That's all I ever heard about it. Whenever I looked it up or did research on it, it was always, oh, don't go on it. It's a big crappy website, blah, blah, blah. But if you actually check it out, it's not really that way. The same with Libri. It was kind of painted as like a conspiracy theorist heaven and like, oh, it's just like cryptocurrency news and blah, blah. And that is a big part of it, but there's so much more there that people just don't bother to look at. And then the other half of the coin, as I mentioned, is a lot of people just don't know that it exists. I was there a couple years ago. I was so fed up with using like Gmail and YouTube and stuff like that. They just kept on, basically just crushing their users, not really caring what they were doing because their users don't bring them in money. Their ads bring them in money, and people are always willing to take the place of whoever leaves. So they didn't really care. But I didn't really know of any alternatives. So I was like, all right, well, I guess this is what we're stuck with because they just keep on squashing all these new startups to try to compete with them until I started looking into it. And there are actually a ton of alternatives to the big name brands that people just may not know about.
Well, and I foresee that we're going to continue moving to this more decentralized internet that we see. Like Friendica and Dysphora, I think are very interesting. I think even Mastodon, they're federated servers. That means like I can start a server, have it join the Mastodon network, and it contributes, and people can get on my server. And if someone posts something on my server, it spreads to the rest of them. Kind of like email. Yep. Email's a federated service. That's the best example of it. And, we see that with Libra, another peer-to-peer. This one's actually a little bit, has some blockchain base to it as well. But I think it'll really change the way users interact and really bring back the control to the users instead of these big companies telling you this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of the rules that YouTube has implemented, and I'm specifically picking on YouTube here, just because a lot of people go there for monetization and to make a living. And a lot of the rules that YouTube implemented hurt a lot of their users, but YouTube didn't really care because they were getting pressured by either ad providers or the reason that they get money for their site. So they just kind of caved and were like, well, this is just kind of the new norm. You guys are just going to have to deal with it. And no one could get any answers. No one can ever get any answers from YouTube on why they do stuff. It's just always, hey, we've changed our, the way that we run our platform. It doesn't really matter if you don't like it. This is the way it is now. And I mean, in a place, especially like America, you should be able to have an alternative that you can go to. If you don't like the rules of one site, you can go to another. Like, that's across the board. That's usually the case in most scenarios, except when it comes to a lot of social media platforms, stuff like that. Until recently, like the past, 5 or so years, when a lot of competition has started to come up, but people just don't know that it exists.
That and they are right. I think what's very interesting is Facebook's so big. Something comes out that's cool, like Instagram or WhatsApp. Like WhatsApp wasn't that bad. I feel like it started going downhill when Facebook bought it. I could be mistaken, but it was a secure like messaging app. Now we've seen a lot of problems with it. Just because Facebook's buying up everyone, I think the two big companies are Facebook and Twitter. And then Facebook umbrella includes, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. You might have Tumblr over here, a few other sites, but to be honest, those are the big two. It really doesn't. Yeah. It's more of a duopoly. Are you going to use Twitter? You're going to use Facebook's ecosystem.
Yeah. It's just one or the other. You pick.
And with that, it leaves a user in a rock and a hard place because I don't think either company has very great privacy policies.
No.
And then they're always tracking you. That's how they make their money. Which I respect the hustle, but I feel like you can do an approach like DuckDuckGo, have non-invasive like tracking, but still provide ads and still make revenue.
Yeah, and I'm all for viable alternatives. I don't think that they should just be shut down because they're too big or whatever. You don't like them. Like, Facebook can still exist. These companies can still exist, but there has to be a viable alternative. And if there is one, then go to that if you don't like it. But the problem that I see or whatever is that there's not really a viable alternative that a lot of people know about. Either they get a bad rap or they just are never popularized. And I agree with like WhatsApp. Like, there has been good companies that came up, didn't get a bad rap, everyone knew about them, loved them, and started using them, but then they just get bought up. So that's kind of another issue as well.
Well, and I encourage anyone, if you're actually listening, like, and if you are fed up, do the research. Like, there are tons of alternatives out there. Like, there's Mastodon. Like I said, there's Friendica, there's Disphora, there's PixelFed, which is an open source Instagram alternative. Like Signal instead of WhatsApp. Like, do your research. Speak with your voice, because to be honest, that is ultimately what will cause these companies to wake up and change their policies.
Yeah, the only way that these companies will ever change what they do is if they start losing money. Like, they are a company. Their goal, no matter what they say or whatever, we're here for the users or whatever crap, their bottom line is to make money. And if they can't make money, they have to change their approach. And so far, that hasn't been the case, because they make money hand over fist right now. And the only way that they would change their policies or start to open up and have some actual transparency on their dealings behind the scenes is if they start losing users, and i.e. losing money. That's kind of the only way that you can stop them from doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
But on another note, video game related, apparently Cyberpunk, which is a new game that's out. Full name is Cyberpunk 2077, popularized by Keanu Reeves and all that. It's a massive kind of online game, kind of along the lines of like GTA, in my opinion. Apparently, there's a scene in Cyberpunk that has a bunch of flashing lights. And specifically, I believe they're white and red flashing lights. Whether intentional or not, is used in the medical field to induce epileptic seizures. So apparently there's a scene in there that is an exact replica of a neurological trap, or as it's being described.
So specifically, the red and white flashing is used in medical fields.
Correct, yes. This was put up by Game Informer, and they said a common trigger for epileptics in media are rapid blinking lights, specifically of red and white variety. So that was in the game, and apparently there is like a seizure warning, as most games are nowadays, just in case, to avoid being sued and stuff like that. Apparently, Cyberpunk said that the creators said that did not intend for that to be in there, but it is. And they said they're going to try to maybe have a version where that's not in there, or maybe have a bigger warning in front, or something like that, just to try to protect people. But if you are epileptic, or you know someone who is, and they are planning on playing this game, maybe just advise them that there are certain parts that could trigger their symptoms.
There's not going to be any smooth transition for this, but we could start talking about Apple's roadmap, which has been unveiled for their M1 chips. I know we've talked about this a few times, but I really think this is important to bring up, because we could potentially see a revolution in how computing is done, moving from x86 to ARM. Mm-hmm. So a couple weeks ago, Apple released their MacBook Air, their Mac Mini, and their 13-inch MacBook Pro with these M1 chips. They had a 8-core processor and their GPU on there. We've seen some reports from Bloomberg, which outlines the roadmap for moving the entire Mac lineup to the custom silicon that Apple has designed. In 2021, we're expected to see the 16-inch MacBook Pro start coming with the 16-core version of the M1 chip, and the iMac computers as well. The Mac Pro, their really big workstation computer, we won't see that until 2022, but that's expected to have 32 cores. And I think this is really interesting, because the benchmarks on the lower end ones show it competing relatively well, and sometimes winning against Intel CPUs. I think with Apple, with the company has much weight behind it, it could really change the game and either cause Intel to have to compete, which they haven't been doing. That's why AMD's been doing so well. Yep. Or everyone will just move to ARM, and then we'll have this seamless experience from mobile to desktop, and potentially even servers to an extent.
Yeah, that would definitely make everything a lot easier, especially on the developer end. You wouldn't have to develop for multiple different types of architectures. You could just develop for ARM with backward compatibility, and that would make everyone's life a lot easier.
Exactly. And this report also reveals some other information. They plan on using this M1 chip to power the new iPad Pro models next year. There will be some faster M1 successors for the MacBook Pro and desktop computers with more GPU performance and more cores, kind of like I was saying earlier.
Has anyone gotten their hands on a new M1 chip to actually benchmark it for themselves, or are we still taking Apple's word for it?
Oh yeah, no. MKBHD has gotten it. A ton of tech YouTubers it's in the new MacBook Air and the Mac Mini, and I think the 13-inch MacBook Pro. And with the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air, they can have side by side. Here's the Intel version, here's the M1 chip version, mm-hmm. And they tested it, and they're like, it's pretty good. A lot of people were speculating that it wasn't going to be good. This is a huge leap. Yeah. No one's going to support it. Actually, it seems to be going pretty well. I'm legitimately impressed. The Rosetta software, which is the translator between x86 and ARM, yeah, it seems to run pretty decently. Okay. So even if it isn't support, even if the program wasn't written for the ARM CPU, yeah, you can run it. There might be a mild performance hit, but it doesn't seem to be that big.
Okay. Yeah, as much crap as we've talked about Apple, competition is always good. So if they've come out with a new chip that, rivals the current market, that's definitely good news.
Well, not to drag this out, but I think it's very interesting. Apple, I think, was trying to get away from Intel and NVIDIA and AMD and stuff like that. And then NVIDIA bought ARM. So, yeah. And ARM licenses out, to these manufacturers so they can use the ARM architecture and everything. So, I don't know. I don't know if it was a 4D chess move or what was going on here at NVIDIA. They were like, and we'll show them, try to get rid of our chips or something. But I think this could have huge implications, and I don't want to dwell on it too much. We've already done that in previous episodes.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's definitely good news. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Do you have anything else to say, John?
Yeah, check us out next week. We're on Spotify. We're on Linktree. You know, we're on everything. Check us out, Libra, YouTube. Don't forget to comment and subscribe.
Yeah, that's actually something I want to bring up. We are on other sites besides just YouTube. I know in our Linktree I have a few linked down there, but we're trying to kind of have it on every site so that if you don't want to use YouTube or you don't want to use like, you know, the big name brands or whatever because you don't agree with them, you can check them out at another site. And if you see a site that we're not on that you frequent, let us know and we can add that to our list and upload there as well. Because yeah, I mean, as much crap as we talk about YouTube and stuff like that, we still upload to there because they're valid as a platform right now. But yeah, if there's someplace else that maybe we haven't discussed and you want to see us on, or that you really enjoy, let us know and we'll check it out.
And if you thought this video was trash, hit that dislike button. I love the haters. Hate on me all day.
I mean, yeah. Honestly, we do this because we like doing it. So
I honestly get hate enough in Toledo. So like, keep hating. I love that shit.
Oh my goodness. All right, we'll see you later. I'll calm John down off the air. All right, bye.